Alright, we're going to be doing one of the workflows in the class today, which is a vacation approval workflow. So the vacation list is a pretty basic list, and it's got 4 different columns. Details, which is actually the title column, start date, end date, which are date and time columns, and the manager, which is a person or group column, and then approval status is a choice column, and it has submitted, approved, and rejected. And then this is going to be the workflow itself, which I'm going to go ahead and delete that and then restart from scratch. And then this is the approver comments. So these 2 columns are very special columns. This is a choice column, this is a multiple line of text column. But what I want is that when the workflow fires, it should generate a task for the manager, and then depending on the outcome of the task, depending on the manager approving or rejecting it, I want this column to be updated automatically by the workflow, which is if the task has been rejected, then I should see the approval status as rejected. If the task is approved, then I should see the approval status value in this list, in the vacation list, to be approved. And also I want the workflow, if the manager has entered any kind of comments while approving or rejecting it, I want those comments to be fed back to the approver comments column. So here's a pretty brief description about this workflow. Which is, I believe, workflow number 8, vacation approval system. And these are the columns and the workflow details. Workflow should fire when the user enters a vacation and not on when it's being modified. Workflow should create a task for manager with a custom column approve with choices approved or rejected. If the manager approves the task, only then set the approval status in the vacation list as approved, else set it to reject. So let's go back to SharePoint Designer and let's get started. There was an existing workflow on it, and I deleted the workflow. So this list has got no workflows, and as we had just seen before, there was an approval. There was a workflow column here. When I deleted the workflow, the column is gone as well. So I just did some cleanup over here. So let's go ahead and get started with creating a brand new workflow. New, and then let's give it a name. Vacation approval. Alright, so like always, I'm going to go ahead and have 2 stages here. The first one is going to be in progress, and the second one over here is going to be completed. Let's get started with using the assign a task workflow action. So this action generates tasks for the manager to approve it. So the first parameter that I need to pass to it is who are the participants. The participant is the manager, which the user enters in the list. And I can choose that by clicking on this option over here, workflow lookup for user, and let it be current item, and then choose the manager. The manager is a people or group column, which shows me 4 different options. User ID is an internal ID of every single user. I can see the login name, but login names are always not that friendly. Okay, I can see the email address. Email address is always not that user friendly. So I'm going to choose show the display name. Okay, hit on OK, and here I have the participant, and then task title is going to be the details column. Okay, and there's a due date column, so the due date is going to be the start date. I'm going to say right before the start date is the due date, So the manager has to approve it before the start date. I have a couple different options over here. One is task option, wait for task completion, okay. Email app option, which is I click on open email editor, and then it shows me a template of the email which will be sent out to the manager. Also, there's this option for sending emails when this task is overdue. So I'm going to choose that option, and I'm going to say that send it daily, one time. So which means that if the start date has passed and the manager has still not approved the vacation, the task process, the workflow is automatically going to keep sending him email every single day. So I'm good over here, and then this is going to generate the task. And now there are two outputs to this workflow action. It takes in one parameter, which is the approver, and it returns me back two outputs. One is the task ID, the second one is the outcome. The outcome is whether it's approved or rejected. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this outcome variable to update the status of the approved status depending on the outcome, task outcome. So I'm going to start with the condition, which is if the variable outcome is equal to approved, then set field in current item, which is approval status. And let's not forget the approval status in the beginning is submitted. So I want this to be updated to approved. Okay. Now I'm going to copy this whole block over here, put it here, and now change it for rejected. If it's rejected, then update the approval status to rejected. Okay. And I like to have log to history. So I'm just going to go ahead and write down details, which is, let's just say manager is current item, manager, not login name again, but display name. Okay. And then the outcome, task outcome. Okay. And this will be, the task outcome is stored in the variable outcome right there. Okay. So I have the manager, and then I have the outcome. Changing the action to go to completed, scroll down, changing the action, and another workflow. Okay, so this is the first part of the workflow, which actually gets the status of the task and updates the approval status column automatically. The approval status column again has got submitted, approved, and rejected values. It's a choice column. So if the task has been approved by the manager, then it's going to update this column to approve or reject it. Also, one of the things that I want to do over here is, depending on, so I'm expecting the manager, if he's rejected, then I'm expecting the manager to add comments in the workflow task description column. So these tasks has got a description column, and I can show that to you right here. It's got a description column, and I'm expecting the manager to enter some text in the description column, just if in case they have decided to reject it, or even if it's approved. If they want to throw in a reason why they approve it, might as well. So now what I want to do is that I want to get the value stored in the description column of the task list, of the task item, and bring it from there to the vacation column, to the vacation list, and store that in the details, in the approver comments column. So I'm going to the vacation list, and if the user has decided to reject it, then they're going to come in here actually they're going to enter the comment right in the task list while they're rejecting it, and I want that value to come from the task list and be stored in the approver comments column over here. Okay, so for that I'm going to go ahead and use set workflow variable, create a brand new variable by the name approver comments, and this will be a string. Hit on OK, and now let's go ahead and get the value. So here's the thing, for getting the value I need to find out, so the value is actually stored, so I have two, so the workflow is running in between two different lists over here. One is the tasks list, the workflow task list, and the other one is a vacation. So the workflow is actually running on the vacations list, and it generates a task in the workflow tasks list. So what I want is when the manager is done approving or rejecting the task, I'm expecting him to enter some description details, some details in the description column, and I want the value in this description column to be retrieved by the workflow and insert that in the approver comments column. So for that, the first thing that I need is I need to know which task in the task list is associated with this request. So which means that when this task is being generated, it actually returns me back a task ID, and that's the task ID and this is how I will find my way to the task. So click on the value, click on effects, and I'm saying that no, not in the current item, but let's go find the task first. So that task is actually stored in the associated task list, and now when I'm there in the task list, the first thing that I need to specify is which column, from which column stores the value. So I'm saying the description column, and now there could be thousands of task list items in the task list. So far I just chose the description column. I'm saying that out of all these different columns that I have in the task list, I just need value from the description column. But other than that, I also need to tell it which list item, which task item. So this is where I'm gonna select the ID and enter the value stored in the task ID variable. And so this is how it looks like. So the question is, where am I getting this value stored in the task ID? It's right from here. When the workflow generates the associated task with the vacation request that the user entered, it actually brings me back the task ID that it generated. And using this task ID, I can pull the list item ID. So here, and the value goes in this variable, and then I'm gonna go down and then update the approver comments with the value stored in the approver comments variable. Okay, and just one other thing, like I love logging all the details. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add another log over here, log to history, and I'm just gonna mention that approver comments retrieved from task list is this, which is stored in the variable approver comments. Okay, so I think that I'm pretty much done over here, except for go back in here and then select the triggers and hit on publish. Alright, so let's go to the vacation list and let's enter some vacations here. Orlando, and select the start date, 31st to the 3rd, enter manager's name, and hit on save. I'm gonna hit on refresh, scroll down, and see the status of my workflow. It's in progress right now, so which means that it's actually waiting for the manager to approve it. So logged in as the manager and actually pretending to be the manager, I log in as AQL user 1 to, actually I should be logging into the site. Over here, the workflow should have generated a task for me. I scroll down and then I see, yeah, trip to Orlando. Somebody's taking a trip to Orlando. And I click on that and I'm like, okay, edit this. Let's see what I can do. Okay, so I'm like, okay, show more. And there's a description. And I just write down some comments. Yes, you have been throwing a lot of time at work. I think in fact we might sponsor your trip. Okay, scroll down and click on approve, and the task is completed. So now I log in back as the user who put in the request, and I want to see what's happening here. So trip to Orlando, and I want to see more details. So I want to see what's happening here, and then I see, okay, approval status is still submitted. Okay, let me go back, take a look at what's happening. The workflow says it's still in progress. Okay. I'm gonna log in back as a manager again, real quick. See if I can modify this and make this as, this is 100%, and this is completed, and this is okay. So it seems that the task, has actually been completed successfully. So I'm just gonna patiently wait to see what's gonna happen here. Or actually, meanwhile, I can just click on in progress and take a look at the status behind the scenes to see what's happening. And I can see that outcome is 0. Okay, below are the details: manager, AQL user 1, and then okay. So so this is where my workflow was erroring out. Okay, I mean, the workflow would just be in progress and it just would not complete, and the status would always be submitted. It would just never update to approved or rejected. And then I found out that my workflow is being suspended. And when I click on the small little information icon, it tells me what the error message is. It's saying that you are comparing apples with oranges. Okay, it's saying that input string was not in the correct format. So I know what it is. Okay, and I know where it happened because I have this log to history. So it showed me the first log to history. Okay, but it did not show me the second log to history. So I know that is between the first and the second log to history. Okay, so when I went back, between the first and the second log history is this line over here. Okay, and this is how I fixed it. What I found out was I was actually comparing the ID column with the task ID. This is how it was before. I was comparing ID with task ID, and I was thinking that the task ID holds the IDs, the list item IDs as it did in SharePoint 2010. And if you want to take a look at how these list item ID looks like, then let's go back here real fast and go to the workflow task list and take a look at this. Okay, this is the ID. I was expecting that the task ID from the workflow, the task ID in the variable is going to have a number just like what's stored in here, which is 1 2 3 4. Okay, but what I found out after some more tests was, and I can go back and show you that test results, I modified the workflow a little bit so that I can see the value which is being stored in the task ID, and I generated the second test, modify the workflow a little bit, and I'll show you what the modification I did, which is I added, in this line of text, I just added another line, which is task ID, show me the value of the task ID in the first log. And we have seen that it was showing me the value in the first log. Okay, so now when I scroll down, this is where I found out that task ID was actually holding this good number. Okay, and finally what I did is, to fix this problem, I go back and then I click on my lookup over here, and then now instead of comparing task ID with ID, I'm comparing task ID with GUID now. Hit on OK and then publish it, and now let's go ahead and enter a brand new task, or actually a brand new vacation, which is trip to Orlando again. All right, let's go and enter some dates in here. The 31st to the 4th. QL user 1, and then now let's go ahead and click on save. So this generates my vacation request, and then I can see that this is my vacation request. Scroll towards the right, and if I refresh it again, then I'm gonna see in progress over here. Okay, so let's go back. So let me log in as So let me log in as the AQL user 1 manager by clicking on the same window, a different window in the same browser, and I click on workflow tasks, and I'm gonna see there's my task ready. So logged in as AQL user 1, even though I'm logged in as myself again, but I'm just pretending that I'm logging as AQL user 1, which is going to show me exactly the same thing anyways. And then in here I select the task, I hit on edit item, and then I scroll down, and then I say, okay, you know what, you deserve a lot more, have fun. Scroll down, and then I click on approve. Now that I'm approved, so now the user logs in again. Refresh the page and let's see what I get. I might have to do a couple refreshes because the workflows at times they take a little bit of time to run. So trip to Orlando. Okay, so I scroll towards my right, and then look at that, it shows as approved, which is the approval status column. Before it shows submitted, but now it shows as approved. And look at that, it also brings in my description. It also brings in the comment that the manager has entered. Okay, which is right here. You deserve a lot more, have fun. All right, so this is how a workflow can be used for approving tasks, retrieving values from those tasks, and then updating the vacation list. All right, thank you so much.